Welcome, and thank you for coming and joining us today. My name is Jared Iwata, and I'm a group product manager on Google Workspace. I've seen firsthand how Google's tools can help transform companies and help them thrive. Our tools are designed to help empower people to be more productive across industries with ease of management and security that really helps every business grow. If you're familiar with Workspace and ChromeOS, Android for Business, and Pixel, you probably know we're built on top of Google's cloud infrastructure. But did you know that these tools give employees the necessary environments and infrastructure to work anywhere, collaboratively, and connected with their coworkers? Our Workspace tools are connected and available to any device connected to the internet. ChromeOS empowers a modern work environment that works from anywhere. And Android for Enterprise and Pixel devices give employees a connected state as they move around the world. These may look like a laptop and a phone, but ChromeOS is an operating system that is designed for the modern needs of a business. It's optimized for how employees work. It gives them a highly reliable and extremely secure environment. We've built ChromeOS around the Chrome browser, which is primarily where teams get work done today. This makes it easier for employees to log in and get started working. Android devices benefit from a universal and tightly integrated security service like Protect. This helps protect them from potentially harmful applications. We also have strong on-device security, all the way down to security primitives like secure booting and application sandboxing. Managing a modern workforce requires efficient tools to maximize productivity. Pixel, ChromeOS, and Workspace work together to simplify device management, application management, and user security, all from a single console. And now we've enabled modern AI user experiences that work together seamlessly with the products we have. The AI assistants inside of Gmail, Docs, Sheets, and more are all available to users today. We can also power up a business using Google's AI. In Google Meet, for example, we have live captions that will translate into 12 languages. Even more powerful, you can see Google Meet help take notes for you so you can focus on the meeting at hand. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by 3 IT leaders to talk about how they leverage the power of Google and connect their workforces with ChromeOS, Workspace, Android, and Pixel. We'll talk through how these companies from healthcare, retail, and manufacturing use these tools to help boost productivity and enhance employee management and customer experiences. So let's start with a round of introductions from everyone. If you could please introduce yourself, your role, your responsibilities, and a quick overview of your company. We'll start with you, Anthony.
Yep. I'm Anthony Biolatto. I am the CIO of Sports Basement, a California-based outdoor retailer. We have both online and in-store presence with 12 stores across the California region, about 1,000 employees, and we've been using Google Workspace for over 10 years now.
Hi, I'm Manesh Patel, CIO at Sanmina Corporation. So Sanmina is a Fortune 500 manufacturing company headquartered in San Jose. So we manufacture for OEM, name brand OEMs across a range of industries, medical devices to industrial, communications, and really focus on mission critical and complex systems with electronics. So we operate in 20 countries. We're about 45,000 employees worldwide.
And I'm Kathy Young from Hackensack Meridian Health in New Jersey. We're the largest health system in the state of New Jersey with 18 hospitals and about 500 ambulatory locations. We use Google Workspace. We went live in 2021. We also are rolling out ChromeOS as a standard workstation. We've got about 70% of our 40-some thousand devices are now ChromeOS. We do not use Pixel yet. We're playing with it, but I can't say we have any immediate plans. And then we're kind of aggressively moving to cloud, doing a bit of a data center migration to GCP kicking off this year.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Let's start out with some of the challenges and priorities you're seeing from an IT perspective in 2024.
I can go first. There's a lot of challenges in the quickly changing world. You know, for us, we started as a mom and pop outdoor shop, and we were really intimate with our community. And now that we're scaling to 12 stores and 1,000 employees, keeping all those folks connected and still feeling like they're part of a small organization, feel like they have a voice, no matter if they're a part-time worker that just started at one of our companies. We want to connect them with the CEO and have that connection and that collaboration. And so that's a big priority for us as we're looking to expand to even more stores, as well as security and just efficiency of how we manage our operations between all our locations. Those are all very top priorities for us in 2024.
Manesh?
So our background with Google goes back to 2009. We were very early in our adoption of Google Apps. And we could see Google's trajectory was going to put us on a different path to anybody else. And we've seen that. So since then, we've got video conferencing, we've got ChromeOS, we've got GCP, all of those things we've realized. And the good news is we've adopted all of those things. So today we've got a great set of capabilities in BigQuery, very high quality data. We spent the last 2 years working on that. And now that we're there, we're now looking at the next challenge, which is really AI, and really adopting AI and democratizing the data that we have available. So that's really the big challenge for us. We are somewhat of an old school manufacturing company, so getting our employees and management to really leverage data, get more value out of the data, that's really the ongoing challenge that we're faced with.
So I mentioned our move to GCP. One of our primary focuses this year is to get rid of technical debt that we have accumulated over years and years in acquisitions and mergers. We have applications and servers running that we don't even know what they are or why we have them. So we're doing a lot of cleanup this year, and part of that is moving to GCP. The other focus for us is very much around cybersecurity. I mean, you don't wake up any day without seeing that there's been some other large organization with a ransomware attack. Healthcare is the #1 targeted industry for ransomware attacks. We had an unfortunate incident about 4 years ago. Some of us still have PTSD from that. So ChromeOS has been a big part of our story there. We've reduced vulnerabilities by 70%. Now, I can't say all of that's ChromeOS. We've done a number of things, but we are continuing to advance that posture because you can't stand still. If you're standing still, you're losing. So we just keep moving forward and progressing our security posture. And ChromeOS is a big piece of that.
Well, that's a great point, Kathy. So you've got 40,000 devices. We've got 10,000 devices, and that represents about 25% of all of our devices. So it's a ongoing challenge to really expand the usage of ChromeOS. Yep. But we really see that security angle as well, especially on the manufacturing floor, where more and more of the threats are coming in that arena. So we've deployed ChromeOS across all of our manufacturing operations, and it's been rock solid in terms of security.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say I agree. Like, we've done the same as much as we can, and without having to purchase all of the hardware that we at the same time, but kind of cycle as we went through it. And our employees love it, is the good news. They get their hands on it. It's easy to use. They're quick to understand it. And so when that opportunity does arise, it's a very easy transition.
Yeah, so I'd love to build on this discussion we're having around ChromeOS. And really understand how the Google ecosystem and the tools, whether it be ChromeOS or Android or Workspace, has helped your workers connect better and collaborate better. And Kathy, I'd love to start with you because I think it's a really interesting environment within healthcare, and I'd love to learn more about how you're approaching that.
Well, you know, when the pandemic hit, we didn't have a work from home culture. We had remote access for when you wanted to check your email at night, but you know, no one worked from home really. So the pandemic hit and we quickly got our hands on about 3,000 Chromebooks, and I'm not lying when I tell you that we set up drive-through stations where people could flash their badge, and we were throwing, you know, monitors and Chromebooks. They'd never used one in their lives. We had it in like a kiosk mode, and all they could do was get to Citrix from it. You know, you fast forward from that starting point to where we are today with 25,000 of those devices out. Workspace, though, because of Workspace, which we went live on in 21, and running on a ChromeOS, it's such an integrated unit that the security is easier. I don't have to really provide a remote access solution because it's managed through ChromeOS and through the browser. So it's just it's an easy solution for us to manage. We now hire people. Well, I'm an example. I was a contractor at the time. I'm now an employee of the health system. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. So we're now hiring people from all over the country. We're entering into partnerships around the world. We're delivering healthcare in ways that we didn't dream of 4 years ago. Telehealth, tele everything is now the norm. And we're creating partnerships, and we're equipping those partnerships to service our patients from wherever they happen to be. It's a whole different model of patient care. And the clinicians are really driving that, and we're enabling it, basically using our Chrome platforms or our Google platforms to enable them.
And so I'd love to understand how that's different or similar to what you're seeing in manufacturing.
No, it's very consistent, and so we had a little bit of a longer runway. When we first started with Google, the original vision was really to enable our employees to be able to access documents from any device, anywhere, at any time. So back 2009, that was pretty hard to do, and everybody was coming into work to access their information, and we said, look, let's try and open this up. So within a few years, we were able to do that. So then we changed our vision statement to, we want to be able to enable all of our employees to be able to work from any place at any time, from any device. And we realized that. And now the vision statements move forward another step, which is we really want to enable our employees to be more effective and productive and efficient. So that's the next phase we're embarking on right now. But to Kathy's point, we had a similar problem statement when we hit COVID. We went from, on any given day, about 700 employees working remotely to 7,000 within 30 days. And a big part of being able to scale that quickly was Google. Mm-hmm. And zero trust. So we don't have VPNs anymore. But so that was great. And what we had done just about a year before COVID hit was we rolled out Meet's conference rooms in at least one conference room in every single site we had around the world. So as IT, we invested in that. And then when COVID hit, all of our employees just switched to going to video. And it was just a very natural move. So we got lucky in some ways, but it was a great fit.
It's funny to think that in 2009, it was this crazy thought to think about accessing your files remotely, and now we just take it as a given and granted, and it's not that long ago, but it's great to hear that transition. I mean, what has your experience been like?
I mean, for us, it was actually a little bit of a different experience. Being that we started in 1998, we were a very young company, so we were able to adopt Google Workspace very early in our process, and it became a part of how we worked. And one of the most important things for our company is the people. And we noticed that really good people were no longer young chickens anymore. They wanted to have families, and they were moving out of San Francisco. And we saw an opportunity to use the Workspace platform to keep them engaged and keep them employed and part of our family so that they can continue to add value. Our average tenure in our corporate office is over 15 years. That happens through a commitment to those staff members and having the tools to facilitate. So I actually started working remotely 2 years before COVID. It was myself and 6 other members, different buyers, tech members, things along those lines. And so when we had to switch to a fully remote situation during COVID, we had evangelists that were able to speak to it and say, hey, this is how we can walk this path. It's fine. We've been doing it for a while, and share the lessons that we learned through that process. So being early adopters and understanding the value of the collaboration of Google Workspace allowed us to transition through that challenging time very, not easily, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but easier.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that across these different industries, we're seeing similar catalysts and desires around what's driving your adoption. It is this desire for collaboration, really allowing people to connect. And as you mentioned, COVID was a great way to accelerate that change amongst our customers, and we're seeing that across the board. I mean, you folks, but also universally with the folks that we work with every day. Manesh, you mentioned a lot about getting more value out of the data. I'd love to understand a bit about how you and some of the other folks here are thinking about the qualitative and quantitative measures and the benefits you're getting out of the Google ecosystem.
Yeah, even though I feel we've got great quality of data, so if we think about ERP data and data warehouse, we spend a lot of time on making sure that we've got clean data and it's available and usable. Same with our manufacturing system. We've got a high level of consistency across manufacturing, high quality data that's coming in. So now we're in the process of integrating that, and everybody does reports and dashboards and some level of analytics today, and we do that as well. But the next phase, which is really leveraging AI and higher level things like machine learning and so on, is really here now, just in time, because we're ready for it. So last year we just delivered a world-class invoice processing solution. We had a lot of challenges with the legacy solution, so we just built our own using Doc AI to scan through invoices that are coming in, and then we built this end-to-end solution on GCP, and did some pilot runs across a couple of our sites, and then did a global rollout in November. It's working fantastically. If I could, I'd be out there selling it. But, that's not our core business, but it's a great solution running on GCP.
Oh, great. And Andy, how are you finding the qualitative and quantitative benefits?
Recently we've really tried to lean into using Gemini to help us with our customer service department and transition away from kind of standardized templates and empower our employees to respond with their own voice and also provide a better customer experience for our customers. And so we've seen 30% reduction in response time from having to sort through a bunch of templates, and that's been a huge benefit to not only our customers, but as well as our staff.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. And Kathy?
Yeah, I'll go back to the ChromeOS story. I have metrics that are amazing about the fewer support calls I get. So less desktop support, and when they do need to go service a unit, it's a 10-minute visit instead of a 2-hour visit while they're figuring out registry settings or something. So our cost of field service will go down. We're currently in a contract that doesn't permit it to go down yet, but it will go down upon renewal. So I think that's probably the most quantitative. Qualitative, when you speak about Workspace and you've got these teams that are now working remotely and now all over the country, just you can literally build relationships through Google Meet and through chat and through just the collaborative nature of using Drive and the different apps in Workspace that is really unparalleled for any of the products I've used in the past. The ease of using it and the the informality of it, I think, is fantastic to just start to bridge that geographic kind of gap that we have now. In fact, my entire team that has done the Workspace and the Chrome projects have never met in person.
Wow.
Now, of course, I've got desktop technicians who are physically putting equipment out, but all of the engineering, all of the support, all the training, all of the migration of data, all done with teams that were just all over the US.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, and I think that our ability to connect as organizations has really been enhanced by making the tools embedded in the way that we build our culture inside of our companies. And so I think as companies like yours adopt more and more of the Google ecosystem, it becomes just second nature to use all these collaboration tools to interact. So while again, several years ago, it may have sounded very odd to hear that your teams never met, now you're like, oh, well, that seems like it would work. I'd love to hear what your IT vision is for 2024. I mean, we've talked a lot about what you folks have accomplished, but it'd be great to hear what you're thinking about for the future.
I'll go first. Thinking about, it's hard not to think about AI and the impacts it's had already, and the fast evolution of that technology, and that it's already integrated with the workspace tools we use, so the access is there already. It's right in front of staff, and really facilitating their adoption and making it way more than a buzzword that we're hearing so much in tech right now, but make it applicable. And really, how do we identify their problems and find solutions for them through the AI tools that are already in Workspace?
Yeah, so we're beyond the invoice processing solution I talked about. In terms of generative AI, I would say we're still in proof of concept stage. We're piloting some things out. We've got different teams around the world doing different things. So one of the things I want to do is really pull them together so that they're learning together and they're working together to really figure out what, from a technology standpoint, what makes sense. The other thing we're doing is really trying to bring our employees and our management with us. And one of the gaps I've seen is there's a real lack of understanding in the general population of what AI is and where it's applicable and so on. And I think that's a big risk for everybody who works in technology. If we can't take the general population with us, it's going to be a real challenge. So I've started a series with our executives to bring them up to speed and at least an introduction to AI and how to think about it in terms of our business, where it might be applicable, and then come back to IT with, here's the areas where I think where they think that AI can help. So we're still at the early stages, but and we really want to make sure we focus on business use cases.
Yeah.
We don't want to be doing too many experiments, and we want to make sure that we're focused on real value.
Yeah, and I think we see that a lot with what resonates from a product organization at Google, which is to say, when we talk about esoteric concepts like large language models and grounding in files, like we lose the audience real fast. Yeah. But when we tell you, hey, we're going to take notes for you in a meeting, and you leave that to AI, you focus on talking to your coworkers and making the work happen, those real applications, those real workflows are where it comes home. And so I think while the AI hype is real, it's about, like you said, finding those things that are really useful to people and the application of that technology in each workplace. And that's where you're going to get the most power out of it, not around, oh, we're on the greatest model or using these incredible processing units. While that's all important, for an average user, it doesn't really matter, right? It matters like how they access it, how they use it.
Yeah, we're working to figure out the right balance of AI and the right applications for it. In healthcare, in any given meeting, you might have PHI discussed. You might have, just information that maybe shouldn't be captured in notes. And we're struggling with how do we allow for the advancement or use the advancement appropriately and continue to protect both ourselves and our patients and our caregivers. So that's been a struggle for us to get that right. We do have a data and analytics team that we started up about 2 years ago. They're starting to do all kinds of internal development. We actually built our own ChatGPT, if you will.
Great.
So that we're keeping it all in-house and not allowing that, the questions and the responses to go outside. But again, back to the AI and the Gemini, some of the Gemini for Workspace, we're finding where that fits and where it doesn't.
Great. Well, I'd love to open it up to the room and see if folks had any questions they'd like to ask of the audience or myself as we think about this. If you want to raise your hand, there's some folks that will walk around with a mic and bring it to you. I think in front here. Oh, sorry, and then we'll grab that gentleman.
Question on compliance. Interesting that at least a couple of you are very close to industries that are very compliance enforced. How do you worry about AI in the context of compliance that drives the industry? Are there things that you worry about in terms of how to protect against it and so on?
Complaints?
Compliance.
Oh, compliance.
You said compliance, right?
Compliance?
Yes, compliance, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the last point I made, at least in healthcare. It's our compliance officer that's probably having the hardest time with AI. So we have actually formed an AI work group that's defining our standards for how we will and won't use it. What the right forums are. We actually have a policy today that says you will not record any meetings other than training sessions to be used for other training purposes. So right now, the ability to record a Google Meet or do the transcribed Google Meet is disabled in our environment because of compliance. So it's a concern to the point that we've shut it off until we find the right answer. Now, healthcare is a lot different from other industries because of the nature of the things that we talk about and the information that we share. So I may be different from the others sitting here, but that's our stance at the moment.
And if I can speak to just our general stance as we think about Gemini for business, we intentionally ring fence that data such that your data stays within your realm. So that means two things. The information that Gemini is referencing when you ask it questions is referencing your domain, and it's based upon the individual permissions of the person who is making that request. Beyond that, the prompts that you write are, again, unique to your domain. We don't use that to train the larger model and that type of thing. So, we're very cognizant of the fact that there are data boundaries that we don't want to cross. And the good news is all of that conforms to your existing workspace policies. And so you don't have to think about a special permissioning that needs to happen for Gemini. It works automatically with the existing permissioning and safety systems you put in place for data retention within Workspace.
A couple of questions. First for Kathy. In terms of your compliance officer having problems, is it because the current regulations haven't caught up with AI and what the capabilities of AI, or are there deficiencies, or is the compliance officer unhappy with the tools that are available in the cloud to meet the regulations? And then the second question is for Manesh. The use cases that you talked about that you're focusing on for 2024, if you could, detail those a bit, that'd be great.
So I would answer that it's probably both of those things, starting with educating our own internal staff about the compliance risks that we could, encounter in using not just AI, but any kind of cloud-based tools that might be new to us. So to a certain extent, we need to educate the people who are making the policies. And then secondly, we need to understand how that data is being handled. So that work group that I mentioned, we've developed almost a questionnaire. So it's not just Workspace. So anytime a request comes into IT to implement something new and it's got an AI component, we go through this questionnaire now to evaluate how that data is being collected, where it's being stored, who gets access to it. Is it ring-fenced, as you just mentioned, or is it kind of shared into a larger pool to further inform the development of that product? And we have sets of criteria that we would apply against that provider of that solution. We've said no to some. We've said yes to some, and there are others that we've negotiated some different solution than what they originally proposed. So it kind of is both. Understanding as well as educating just our team about how we're going to handle AI when it comes in. In the medical field right now, everything is being AI driven, everything that comes in. So we just have to be smart about the way we implement those technologies.
So let me add a little bit to Kathy's comments, and then I'll come back to your question. So one of our largest divisions is medical equipment manufacturing, so we have to comply with FDA Part 11, device history records, those types of things. And the FDA is now beginning to move in towards electronic device history records. So we're seeing some progress there, but definitely the world of AI hasn't come into that space today. We also have a very sizable defense and aerospace business where we have to comply with requirements such as CMMC and other DoD types of requirements. So again, compliance and controls are very strict there. A lot of hard lines there that we can't cross at this point. So I think it's going to take a combination of regulatory changes to allow some of that to move. Coming back to your question, so a lot of the requests we're seeing from our employees are more around just day-to-day work activity. So we've done some proof of concepts with chatbots and those types of things to help our employees. There's inherent capabilities within Google Workspace and Gemini for Workspace that we're looking to adopt. So those are what I would consider somewhat foundational. But we also, we run a very complex manufacturing and supply chain environment. So if you think about the hundreds of customers we have, each one of those has a unique supply chain. So we're managing literally hundreds of supply chains on a real-time basis. So that's a very complex environment, a lot of demand signals, forecasts coming in that we have to process on a daily, weekly basis, and then just manage all the components and parts coming into our operations. So extremely complex. And as you can imagine, there's the potential for AI to play a much bigger role on helping us to manage that effectively and optimize it in terms of managing inventory levels, delivery dates, and all of those types of things. So that's more of a top-down type of initiative, and we're looking forward to tackling those things, but they are extremely complex. I think a lot of the solutions we've seen in that space so far might work for one OEM, and that's great, but we're effectively dealing with hundreds of OEMs at the same time.
We had another question over here. Great.
This question is for Anthony. So I work in consulting with retailers, and I was curious to hear more about the metrics that have improved since you've started using Gemini on the customer service side. I was curious about what you've learned about the use cases when you're putting people who are directly in touch with customers and giving them Gemini as a tool to use.
Yeah, it was, there was a lot of hesitancy at first, but at the same time, they weren't in love with copy-pasting templates all day long either. So they were motivated to solve a problem that they knew existed. And then it was just a lot of experimentation and taking real world, okay, let's sit here, and here is someone who says they got the wrong size for their rental skis and they want to swap boots out. Okay, how can we efficiently respond to that person? Prompt Gemini to write for me and be able to then see the output, and I love the way, we're a very informal company. I mean, being outdoor, we're very personable, and so we want to come off in that way. And so being able to tweak the tone of a message in real time and being able to show staff that, okay, I can have some fun with this and this can be interesting, but it takes time, and it is more about modeling and experimenting together, because at the end of the day, I didn't have the answers. I was like, let's look at this together and figure it out, because there's something here. And so that was a lot of how we got to the place where, you know, our customer service manager really kind of fell in love with it and became an advocate for everyone else. And so it ends up spreading out to others and looking at their response time and looking at their satisfaction was really what's let us see that improvement in those areas.
Great, and I want to highlight or come back to one thing that we talked about as a group, kind of shifting gears from AI for a second. One theme that also came up across a lot of our conversation was around security. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about how security has played into your decision making and how Google's ecosystem has played a role in that.
I can go. I mean, security is really first and foremost in our minds about everything we do. Again, if any of you have lived through a ransomware attack, it's not a fun thing to do. Took us several months to really entirely recover, and you know, it was painful and it was expensive. So we changed just kind of. It used to be security was there, but if someone pushed hard enough, we would give them an exception, right? Now there are no exceptions. The rules are the rules. This is the way we operate. We do certain things, we don't do certain things, and you know, that's it. And we have support from the CEO on down. When a influential doctor, you know, complains that he wants something and we have said no, the CEO supports that decision. So security is first and foremost in our minds on everything we do now.
Yeah, and the same for us. Security is priority number one, especially these days. We were fortunate having Google for such a long time, starting with Gmail and Calendar. Security was built in, then we adopted two-factor, multi-factor authentication. And then as we moved to GCP and ChromeOS, we kept adding to sort of that arena of secure technology so that we really didn't worry about it. It's one of those great things where within that Google environment, we weren't too concerned. We had to focus on all the other areas where we didn't have Google technology. And we were spending a lot of time and energy on making sure that was secure. So over time, those areas have shrunk. Having said that, I mean, the security threat landscape continues to grow, so we all need to continue evolving. But so we've been very fortunate to have the benefit of Google for a long time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, when we followed a similar path, right, having our isolated Google Workspace environment, adding in two-factor, growing to ChromeOS, right? It is this staged evolution, and luckily, even though we have 1,000 employees, the two-factor transition, everyone completely understood it and was on board with it, and we were able to make that transition from an administrative perspective and really force that update. And as we kind of look forward, we don't have the same private information that the medical industry does, but our customer information is really valuable. They trust us with their information, and we need to make sure that we're doing a good job keeping that under wraps. And so it is a concern of ours, and I would say it is the ancillary systems that we worry about the most, and the people. You know, you hear about what happened. I think it was MGM here. It was a person, and they got through a telephone call. And so, how do we educate the people that are behind the keyboards to be able to understand how to assess threats adequately?
Yeah, and we just adopted Chronicle in the last couple of months. We're still on the learning curve and the on-ramp. We're really excited about its potential to be able to sort of really look at the big picture and to really get to the threats that are out there. in a comprehensive manner. And I think one of the challenges from a security standpoint we've all had is there's been just a lot of tools out there, and they're not very well integrated. And what we really need now is one place to be able to sort of understand what's our threat landscape look like.
Yeah, and I think that this security mindset has really become pervasive, especially in consumer applications, and that's helped this adoption, right? Like when I log into my bank account, I have to do two-factor auth. It doesn't seem like a weird thing if I have to do it at work, right? And so I think that general adoption has really helped us as an organization, as an industry, drive this into our work environments. And historically, I feel like also that's what has helped with the adoption of things like Workspace, right? People were using Gmail in their personal life, and so to say, hey, use Gmail at work, or you're doing a lot of things already in browsers, so ChromeOS doesn't feel that foreign. All of these things start to blend together in a positive way to give people a more positive experience as they adopt tools.
And I would echo, too, how OAuth is able to swap between those personal and work accounts through authorization very easily helps as well for that adoption.
Great. I wanted to open it up to see if there were any more questions from the floor. So I want to bring it back just to one more thing that we've talked about as a group here that I think was really interesting, and I'd love to hear about your adoption stories in terms of how your teams have thought about the different tools as you brought them in. I know obviously we weren't first. In some cases we were the first, but in other cases there was an adoption curve. Like, how have you found that, and have your teams really been open around the Google ecosystem and the environment?
I'll take that one.
No, you can.
I'll take it. Okay. So our early adoption was Gmail and Calendar, and there were a lot of our employees were like, well, I use this at home. How different can it be? And enterprise Gmail was different, and this was the early days of browsers and email, and so we had a lot of training available back then, and one of the things I learned the hard way was we did not make the training mandatory. And so we had a particular department, I'm not going to name them, who didn't take the training. Mm-hmm. And then after we went live, they came back and said, oh, we need help, right? And so it ended up being a lot more work for us than it needed to be. But I would say training is important and required for almost everything, because there's just so much capability available to our employees, and using things efficiently, right? Even things like chat. It seems obvious on how to use it, but then here's all the other features you could be using to make yourself even more productive. So ongoing training, we do formal training now, as well as most people today like bite-sized training. So I know Google has videos. We'll do newsletters and just keep it really short and sweet, so that we're constantly educating our employees.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I would echo that. We did not require training, and in hindsight, I would require it for everybody. And based on jobs, I'd probably have some advanced training for certain people. We continue to fight the workspace versus office. It's a challenge for us with certain groups. Probably we could compare and have the same groups, but that continues to be a challenge. And I told this story earlier. We do have some kind of hearts and minds to win on the ChromeOS front too. I have a user who came into a meeting with a laptop that was issued to her. I'm sure it was in 1910. And then she pulls out of her bag this stand, and she turns it on, and it's got a fan in it, and the fan starts making this clanging noise. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, well, my laptop overheats, so I have to have the fan. And I said, well, what if we got you a new one? She said, no, because you'll give me a Chromebook.
Wow.
It was a Windows laptop. I said, well, you keep carrying that fan. So I mean, it's partially just, that's what I've always done my whole life. I will use Windows, and I will use, whatever other products we run on Windows, but, we'll win them over one at a time.
Certainly.
Yeah, I would say similar, training. A hammer makes a really bad screwdriver, but it's a really good hammer. And so if someone knows how to use a hammer, they can use the tool properly. If you give someone, and this was back in the day, early day of Sheets, but they were like, oh, this can't do anything near what Excel can do from a data scale perspective. That's not the goal of it. This is a collaboration tool at that time. Now it's evolved to be a heavy hitter, especially with BigQuery involved. But it is really saying, hey, this is what it can do and what it can't do, and being honest about that. I think technology often is sold as this perfect solution to everything, and that's just not the reality to it. We have to be honest about its shortcomings and work with the people to figure out how to fit it in as a solution and a tool that they can use.
Well, on that note, I want to thank our panelists and thank you, audience, for your questions. This has been a great conversation.